These are the contrasting points of view between the major antagonists in the conflict which has become known over the last decade as the Cold War. For an appraisal of this continuing and protracted conflict, we can go to a reporter who has watched the growing conflict with the perception of a trained military observer.
I am Hanson Baldwin. I have here the policy statements of each of our services on the contest we're engaged in with the communists. What they boil down to is this. It is a contest for the minds and hearts of people around the world, all people. The areas in white on this map represent the part of the world composed of ourselves and those who share our beliefs. The communists seek constantly to win an advantage in the minds of the people here and to separate us. The black portion of the map is the communist-dominated part of the world controlled by the Soviet Union and the Chinese Communist regime. And of tremendous importance is that part of the world which is attached to neither camp, the uncommitted nations of the world, represented in gray on the map. For the most part, these nations are absorbed with their own problems. Either they are newly independent after years of domination by a foreign power, or they are still seeking independence. A strong tide of nationalism sweeps over this part of the world, and with it, a mistrust of anything they feel is associated with the old ways of colonialism. They are not committed to either side in the conflict. Our own policy toward them has been one strictly of watchful, non-intrusive friendship, giving help when help is asked for, but otherwise keeping hands off their internal affairs. The communists have been more direct. Their local party members have not hesitated to exploit to their own advantage the passions that smolder in these new states, and to identify themselves in the minds of the people there whenever possible with anti-colonialism, and us with its opposite. It is part of their worldwide technique. How do our military services adapt themselves to this conflict, in which perhaps no gun may be fired? By recognizing that the activities and performances of all their members in every foreign country in which they are stationed will either add to or detract from the goodwill our nation needs in this contest for the respect of the peoples of the world. The President of the United States has called developments of good relationships between United States citizens abroad and members of their host countries basic to the full attainment of our foreign policy objectives. And the services have responded by promoting such good relationships as part of their overall policy. The communists initiated the Cold War for the same reason they would have started a hot war had that been feasible, or would now, should they ever decide that the free world was weak enough for them to risk it. Whatever the degree of tension they create, it is a substitute for hot war, another means of achieving their end. And their end, of course, is world conquest, short of war if possible.
World conquest by actions short of war. Actions that are political, economic, and ideological. How do the communists apply these three methods? First, we will consider the political method and the techniques the communists use when they attempt to acquire their objectives in this way. We would do well to consider the success the communists have had by using the political method alone. As you will see from the black area on this map, they have expanded between 1940 and 1954, took over 15 countries, totaling 714 million people. Since 1954, there have been major internal disruptions in 9 additional countries outside the Iron Curtain. Now, how do they go about applying this political method? The communist coup in Czechoslovakia in 1948 provides us with a blueprint of the ideal formula for political conquest, which includes taking over a country without outside intervention. Destruction of its parliamentary form of government. Murder of its democratic leaders when necessary. rigged elections with only the communist candidates on the ballot. Once the penetration is complete, all this is backed by the naked force of military occupation. By such devices, the Soviet Union turned its neighboring states into satellites, political and economic puppets. In China, political action was cruder, but no less effective. Here, it was political action by conquest. And so overwhelming has this political conquest been that the communists have been able to propel Red China to a position of major influence in the Eastern world. The political force method includes the suppression of freedom in a country already under communist control, without outside interference. Inside the Iron Curtain, there were revolutions without help from the outside. In East Germany in 1953, Poland in 1956, Hungary in the same year, and Tibet in 1959, all of them brutally suppressed. And finally, there is the International Communist Party, dedicated to the subversion and overthrow of every still free government. Where the political method may not prevail, there is always the economic method.
I'm Frank McGee. Let's consider for a moment this matter of the communist use of economic methods to achieve conquest and how it's done. The present masters of the Soviet Union have said to us, peaceful coexistence until we bury you. They propose to officiate at our interment by catching up with us industrially and then surpassing us. They're working hard at it. Today, the 200 million inhabitants of the Soviet state bend their backs and their talents to the Kremlin's will. And Sputnik and Sputnik's successors have proved conclusively enough the USSR's proficiency in the area of technical ability. Throughout the vast stretches of this empire, you find new industrial cities, plants, assembly lines, the most modern equipment. Soviet products of every description awaiting delivery and reaching industrially backward areas of the non-communist world. Teams of Russian technicians are available to operate this machine. This is economic penetration, paving the way for political takeover. The hand of Soviet friendship, which usually precedes an attempt at economic penetration, has been reaching into every part of the world which shows the slightest inclination to receive it. Recently, we've seen it extend into our own hemisphere, into turbulent Cuba, where it was embraced as a triumph of Soviet policy. A few statistics will demonstrate how serious this threat is becoming to the free world. Of the entire annual Soviet economic capability, their gross national product, 70%, or it may run as high as 80%, is devoted to the area of heavy industry. The U.S. and free world share of gross national product devoted to the same area is certainly not much more than 20%. In terms of volume applied to this area of gross national product, the Soviet Union is beginning to surge ahead.
Finally, the communists attempt ideological penetration. Perhaps their strongest efforts go into this kind of penetration into the free world. Before we talk about ideological penetration itself, let's take a look at the reasons why this form of penetration is so important to the communists. For one thing, communist aggression has alarmed many free nations and produced their united will to resist. These nations have implemented their will to resist all other forms of Soviet penetration through a number of trade agreements. The United States and other industrially strong nations of the free world are actively promoting better living conditions all over the world. This has the effect not only of helping these countries to improve their industrial and economic position, but also of providing a defense against communist intrigue, which flourishes in depressed economic areas. The military